Hello, everybody, and welcome to elPablo FC again. We're going to be talking today on another aspect of analysis that we keep doing, especially on this channel. I'm going to try and see how consistent we can be with this. And it's a new analysis that we're going to be doing on a weekly basis, depending on how games go. If we're having midweek games back to back and busy schedule, it'll be difficult to kind of do this analysis, but then we'll try our best to do it. And this is credit to Hard Tackle, from an article from Hard Tackle. You can check out the article, hardtackle.com. For This is not an ad, it's just basically because I like the analysis they gave on this, and I did deep dive with what I found on their website as well as other websites as well. So basically, we're going to talking about the 5 things we've learned from match week 7 or game week 7 of the Premier League. Basically, Arsenal's title credentials are defined. Liverpool have stumbled as we look at basically just the 5 things that we learned. But just over a week ago, there were serious questions about Liverpool and their chances of running away with the Premier League titles earlier as game week 6. But as absurd as it sounds, to write off everyone else from the race, there was distinct possibility that the Merseyside outfit would have been 8 points clear at the top. If you look at the way the games were going and they were unbeaten, they had like a 100% win rate after playing 5 games, and they had 5 wins. But now the action on game week 7 with Liverpool trailing Arsenal in standings by a single point, and now there is talk of a mini crisis within the circles of Liverpool, of Anfield. Now the title race is only warming up in the grand scheme of things with regards to just where it is right now, and there is plenty of twists and turns obviously ahead. While Arsenal look like a firm favorite for the top flight, and their fans are getting giddy as well, Manchester City are themselves relevant again, following yet another victory to continue their unbeaten run since game week 3, and then obviously they beat Manchester United in that one. Then there are questions about Chelsea and Tottenham, which basically we'll dive deep into as we go, and those teams are actually looking for a way, into the main conversation at the top. Looking at different scenarios presented during another busy weekend, there were, some important questions about Bournemouth and Crystal Palace as to what intentions they had for this season. But Rúben Amorim also broke his hoodoo as he got a lifeline of some sort following the talk of a sack after the game against Sunderland. Now we're going to review game week 7 and just basically talk about 5 things that we learned. First and foremost, Arsenal are the Premier League title favorites. Whether the fans like it or not, they are title favorites. Mikel Arteta was bombarded with questions about creativity, goal scoring, and his team's ability to get themselves in the thick of the Premier League title race. The Arsenal boss was deemed to be defensive coach following some results earlier in the season. Now, the ability to not concede goals came back to bite Arsenal weirdly, as the many critics of the Spaniard wanting to see his Arsenal side flourishing in the front line by taking the handbrake off. Arteta basically responded in the most fitting way possible, showing defensive solidity and redefining and refining his attacking play. The notion that Arsenal could have been 8 points behind Liverpool after game week 6 did not come to fruition, as the Gunners secured a top-notch late victory over Newcastle, and then Liverpool lost late to Crystal Palace, which actually turned the tables around. Now the Gunners ensured that there was another weekend where they did not care about other rivals and whether they did their job or not on the pitch, but they had a comfortable win against West Ham, going to the top, albeit it was said at the time that it was temporary. Despite missing a raft of key players, this Arsenal side looks formidable and scary, and barely shows that they are missing those who are unavailable. Now, this shows the kind of business Andre Bata conducted in the market, which was also thoroughly focused on quality depth. In truth, none of these signings so far has played out of sorts, as Arteta continues to refine his system to ensure that his team are defensively resilient and a major attacking threat on the other end. But also, Victor Gyökeres has actually not shown, he has only scored 3 goals, 3 Premier League goals, and he's supposed to be the striker that was brought in to kind of make Arsenal, become a powerful threat again. But he has only scored 3 goals, just 1 goal ahead of Benjamin Sesko, who has scored 2 in his last 2 games. Given the quality of their squad and the rising levels of performance, it's difficult to ignore Arsenal at the moment, with Arteta's side now the firm favourites for the Premier League race, albeit just 7 games in, with about 31 games to go. While other quarters insist that they are in a similar stature when it comes to the Champions League. Yeah, and pretty much you look at it compared to last season, they are, I think, 1 point off the leaders last season. So last season, Liverpool were on 17 points, and this time around, now this season, Arsenal, I think, on 16 points. So it is what it is. After 7 games, right? Now, if we look at the next one, speaking of Liverpool, they have stumbled, but Man City actually look resurgent. They found a winning, they've come back to winning ways. Liverpool in the midst of a mini crisis of sorts, as people have said, according to fans, following a 3rd consecutive defeat across all competitions, and the Slot side have been inconsistent since the start of the season, while many have urged that, they have had massive bouts of luck and ensured that they won the first 5 Premier League games. Now, their fans argue that this team will come good as their new stars start to click. But there has been, a contrasting effect of sorts. After the loss to Crystal Palace, Liverpool stumbled to Galatasaray, trying to get my words out, Galatasaray in Istanbul, to also add pressure to their UEFA Champions League campaign. Now, the mini crisis erupted following their late loss away at Stamford Bridge against Chelsea, where I watched that game and they were just playing. They were not actually connecting. They were playing rubbish. They were disjointed and all of that, with a lot of horrible changes and substitutions by Arne Slot. This has had them slip out of their position at the summit and also to drop down to 2nd spot behind Arsenal. They must overcome this with consistent displays or risk a notion of going further behind the Gunners, as the Gunners look bang in form at the moment and may go on a relentless run. Now, the truth is, when Rooney came out the other day and said something that if Rúben Amorim lost 3 games on the spin like this, they would have gone for his head. But now, and then Liverpool fans attacked him, saying that he was a failed manager, blah, 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 different clubs and stuff. But you can't beat his credentials when it comes to his Premier League record and stuff, right? You can't beat that. But then, obviously, they would want to say whatever they want to say. But in truth, Arne Slot is being protected by the media. But that is aside, and that is what it is. Meanwhile, Man City also, who looked down and out at the back after back-to-back defeats to Tottenham and Brighton and Hove Albion, have made themselves relevant again, with Pep Guardiola's charges have actually looked like a resilient force in the league since their defensive performance against Arsenal. Man City have won consecutive Premier League games since, and while they suffered a minor setback in UEFA Champions League by drawing in the Champions League, Guardiola's side look ready to challenge. Now, the key element is their consistency over large periods, something that they have been missing for the better part of a year now. Now, Chelsea and Tottenham, which is the third thing we learned from this week of football. Chelsea and Tottenham need consistency. Chelsea have gone through a bad period owing to their own silly mistakes as well as some tactical choices. However, they made themselves big in the victory over Liverpool, which has brought about a new lease of life for their fans. The Blues have a good enough squad to challenge for the Premier League title, even though there will be doubts about their credentials to go all the way to win it. And my own concern about this Chelsea squad is the fact that they have 2 similar players on either side. Garnacho, not albeit doesn't have as much pace, but he's the kind of player that will cut in. If he's playing on left hand side, cut in to try to shoot. Same thing with Pedro Neto, same speed star, but will cut in to try to shoot. Hardly cross. Even when they try to cross, it's kind of like a cross that will cause a ricochet and then a deflection into net, like against the game in the game against what's the name of this team? In the Champions League, Mourinho's team, Benfica, where Garnacho deflected a ball where he was on the byline, which is something he would usually not do, especially when he was at Man United. But then they were able to kind of grind out a win, even though it was not a goal that they scored, but it is what it is. So if we look at it, basically the Blues have a good enough squad, as I said, to challenge for the victory. But it is not about clinching the Premier League crown, but staying relevant in a race that may not necessarily go their way. And the truth is, we cannot overemphasize it or understate it. Now, the same could also be said about Spurs, who have looked shaky in the opening parts of the season, but the right word to describe them would be inconsistent. They secured a solid victory over Leeds United, following back-to-back draws in the Premier League. Much like Chelsea, Tottenham are not expected to be in the thick of the Premier League title race, but their primary objective must include a top 4 finish. Hence, to stay relevant, to achieve their key objective, Thomas Frank needs to have a well-drilled side that is capable of playing consistently and staying in the mix for a top 4 race, or even putting up a challenge for the title to an extent. If you look at the Spurs team, you could see that bit of what Thomas Frank had at Brentford, the same type of thing where they were a bit inconsistent here and there. They would win a couple games and then drop off a couple games and all of that, but it is what it is. We'll keep an eye out for what they have to offer. So I said the first thing I talked about was Arsenal. Just to give you a recap, Arsenal, staking their claim in the Premier League as title favorites. Liverpool stumbling, and then City are also looking resurgent. The third one was we compared Chelsea and Tottenham and their search for consistency. Now the fourth one is Rúben Amorim getting a lifeline in this one. Rúben Amorim had been the main topic of discussion since the start of the season due to Manchester United's disastrous performances. As they say, the key stat has focused on how the Red Devils have not won back-to-back league games since the start of last season, and certainly none under the Portuguese tactician. Now, having gone through multiple phases already in the season about losing his job, the pressure was at its highest 2 weeks ago, following a disastrous display away at Brentford. However, Manchester United have since recovered and posted an impressive victory over Sunderland, a game that was beautiful to watch, especially from all different aspects and perspectives. You want to see more on the analysis on the game, check out United Talks podcast. They break down everything there. I break down everything on United Talks podcast, and I kind of give you details on everything with regards to Manchester United. Now, basically, the win over Chelsea did bring some confidence back to the under fire Portuguese boss, but the victory over Sunderland at the weekend has gone on to restore more faith in Rúben Amorim. Hence, this win at Old Trafford could be the platform to build for Amorim, and many would not have wanted the international break to come at this stage, which was asked in press conference. And he said it's not even about the momentum or anything, but it's just about this game is come, this game is gone. We're moving on to the next one, and that is Liverpool in the weekend. Now, the job of Rúben Amorim is still under scrutiny, as future results will dictate the direction of travel for the Portuguese boss. Now, a continuation of this current form will likely see Amorim build more at the club, although more losses will now likely make him the next manager to get the sack, as the press would call it, every now and then. The next game is a crucial one, albeit very important, because Liverpool are coming off the back of 3 consecutive losses in all competition, and Manchester United are coming off the back of a resurgent win against Sunderland. And it will be a tough one because Man United in this season, in the last 7 games that they've played, they face Man City, they face Arsenal, and they face Chelsea. So Liverpool will probably be another stumbling block, and it will be an interesting match to watch to see the outcome of the game. And the fifth thing we'll learn from the Premier League this season, before we round off everything, is Bournemouth and Crystal Palace need to be taken seriously, no doubt. Bournemouth and Crystal Palace are the 2 sides acting as disruptors, or dark horses as we may call it, for the big sides that have ambitions to finish in the top 4. Starting with the Cherries, Bournemouth, following their win over Fulham at the weekend, Andoni Raiola's side have gone 6 games without a defeat since their opening day loss to Liverpool. Now, the win over Fulham temporarily took them to 3rd spot, and had Spurs lost the game, the Cherries would have stayed there in 3rd spot. But for now, it looks like we must take Bournemouth seriously, as they are showing quality to finish in the top 4 or at least in the Europa League places. Similarly, Crystal Palace had a tremendous unbeaten run going, which, resembled their their best in the club's history. However, the run came to a disappointing halt away at Everton, with the Toffees maintaining their unbeaten start to life in the Hill Dickinson Stadium, as that Hill Dickinson Stadium in itself has become a fortress for them. Two of the key players for that game for Everton scored the goals, and that is Jack Grealish, who has found a new lease of life, playing football freely and enjoying and being the main man as opposed to what it was for him in Man City. And then Iliman Ndiaye continuing his goal scoring form and continuing his form from last season, continue to remain consistent, trying to get at least 10 goals in the season, being involved for Everton now, and they're the key two flying wingers for Everton. Very technical players and fast as well as being able to draw fouls and stuff. And it's so good to see Jack Grealish, kind of find his way and find some form and some freedom to play and all of that. So now they continue their start to life, and I'm also interested to see where David Moyes takes this team, moving forward. Because in truth, David Moyes has found a new lease of life after leaving West Ham and then now being at Everton and signing a player on loan as Jack Grealish to kind of add a bit of bite to their squad. Any team that they face right now will be in trouble. Now, Palace, on the other hand, have also shown plenty of promise in the opening part of the season under Oliver Glasner, and they might also be one of those disruptive clubs to watch out for. Hence, the Eagles and the Cherries must be taken seriously in this campaign, as they can either take up one of the top 4 places or severely or severely disrupt plans laid out by top contenders for the Champions League spots. Now, with them having, especially for Crystal Palace, having midweek games in Europe and stuff like that, and still continuing their winning streak. Obviously, the winning streak has basically ended. They will start another one again. And Oliver Glasner seems to be doing very well with this team, despite the fact that they've lost Iberici Eze as well and lost a few key players. But then they're still able to deliver and create results and beat teams like Liverpool. How much more when they face other big teams like Manchester United and the rest, and even Tottenham as well. So we shall see and we'll observe and talk about these things and break it down. But yeah, these are the 5 things we've learned from the Premier League game week 7 or match week 7, as the case may be. Let me know your thoughts and feelings in the comment section. Which other points could we have covered that we didn't cover in this one? Let me know your thoughts and feelings in the comment section as we build towards the international break. This conversation doesn't stop. We continue to have conversations and have talk. At least you have something to watch and analyze and talk about during the international break, as we wait for 2 weeks to go by for us to have Premier League and Spanish La Liga back again. Thank you so much for watching elPablo FC. I'll see you on the next one. If you haven't already, please do like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss anything as it relates to all things football, Premier League, and Spanish La Liga, amongst other things. If there are any breaking news, we'll break it down to you, even if it's with other leagues. But I'll see you on the next one. Thank you so much. Take care. Goodbye, and God bless.